Well, greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Hammerton Live Tour. You're gonna love this tour. I'll give you a good inside look at what happens in our fabrication process, our sales and marketing and engineering part of the building, and you'll get a full rundown of what we do here at Hammerton. So please enjoy it. Also realize that at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a taskbar, and on there you'll see a little chat. Um, um, App there. If you press on that, you can actually ask questions, during the presentation, and we'll answer them during the presentation as well. So it'll be an interactive experience. So don't be shy. If you have any questions, just pop them in there, and then Bree will ask the question to Paul Verbecki, who is our general manager for Signature, which is our custom pieces, one of a kinds, and he's going to take you through the tour, and you should enjoy it. All right. Everybody have a great day and enjoy the tour. And Paul, take it away. Unmute yourself there.
Got it.
There you go.
Technical difficulties there.
Best speech I ever heard.
Awesome. Hey, so welcome everyone. As Scott already introduced, my name is Paul Verbecki. I'm the general manager of Hammerton Signature, and I'm going to be walking you through the shop today to kind of give you the dime tour, as it were. And really where we're headed is towards the glass hot shop, which is a lot of fun. It's really fascinating, and it's just super fun to watch these artisans kind of blow glass. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be starting off here in our showroom. I'll be walking you really quickly through sales and marketing and engineering. Then I'm going to take you through fabrication, briefly through our paint department, and then through finish and into the glass hot shop. And what's really interesting about what I just explained is I explained the fact that literally as an operation, we are all located under one roof, from sales to glass blowing, from engineering to the machine shop. It's all into this 50,000 square foot building here in Salt Lake City, Utah. So as I said, we're going to start off in our showroom, and I think it's kind of fun to actually talk about kind of the evolution of Hammerton. And this is a really good place to show that. So it's really fun for us because we are celebrating our 25-year anniversary. In fact, we're really kind of kicking this off for all of our employees really next week. In fact, you'll actually see some employees as we're walking around wearing some 25-year anniversary shirts this afternoon. So as it were, Joel, if you pan over here for just 1 second, this is really where Hammerton began 25 years ago as far as design. A lot of the products that we built were very rustic in the very beginning. And where it all really began with is Levi Wilson, who is the VP of design, still involved day to day, the founder of the company. As a young man growing up in the metal fabrication and railing industry, he started off by knocking on the cabin communities of Park City, Utah, and asking if he could build light fixtures for them. And what happened in the very beginning is he would come up with this really beautiful design, and he would actually go to Home Depot or something and have to shove another light fixture on the inside of this, because in the very beginning, Hammerton 25 years ago, we didn't have a UL listing. A lot has changed. So we now have our own UL listing, and as you can kind of see the evolution of how things have changed. So 25 years ago, it started off with log and timber, then it moved to Chateau and Craftsman. And about 12 to 13 years ago, the designs changed dramatically and it moved to contemporary product. And then we actually introduced our Hammerton Studio. I think all of you are familiar, and if you're not, we have two brands, Hammerton Signature, which I'm the general manager of. And my job is to think of the one-of-a-kind crazy stuff and show, you might have already shown it, but this is kind of like a steampunk light we did for a trade show just for fun. So we actually did that one. That's kind of something that might be in the Signature, not necessarily specifically that, but things that are kind of crazy and harebrained. But we actually introduced the Studio line as well, as I was getting ready to talk about. And the Studio line found its inspiration from a lot of the products that we have been building as part of the Signature collection for years. And so we took those beautiful elements, the steel and aluminum construction, the blown glass, the kiln fired glass, and we found a way to make these affordable while out sacrificing any sort of design or aesthetic. And so that began Hammerton Studio. So this really kind of begins the presentation. We're going to talk a little bit about how all this stuff kind of came to be. So if you would, follow me. So as I was saying, everything's all under one roof. Accounting, we're walking past the accounting office. This is as you kind of walk into the building. Bill Schott, the CEO, has been with the company for about 15 years. Levi Wilson, the VP of design, he's not here today. But again, he's here, part of the operation from day in and day out. What we're actually coming to is to the studio. Actually, this is, I should clarify now, we actually just moved some people around. This is actually the custom quoting team and customer service as well. So as I talk about the custom quoting team, in a given week, we'll actually go through 120 to 130 custom quotes, custom designs. Part of R&D, they're the ones that are exploring new materials and new methods of products that will actually eventually roll into our studio collection, as well as our signature collection as well. Sales, residential, commercial, and hospitality, and retail. And one of the things I'll mention as we're going through is you won't see as many people in the building as you might have 3 or 4 months ago. And I think it's, goes without saying that obviously the entire world's been impacted by COVID. What's really fortunate about here at Hammerton is we've been very resourceful in how we've been able to address that problem. We're able to send most of our salespeople home to work remotely. They're still responding to emails and answering the phone calls every single day. We didn't miss a single beat with that. We had a lot of our engineers start working remotely. But we're slowly, as restrictions are being lifted, we're able to bring some of the people back into the building. So it's really great to kind of have that family kind of coming back together. But the great thing is that Hammerton, throughout all of COVID, we're able to actually stay open during the entire time and ship orders every single solitary day and actually get orders done. Let's continue on. So I've done this for, I think this is my 3rd or my 4th time now, and it's kind of become this phrase. I got a lot of funny emails last time. I always liken this part of the tour towards the old Willy Wonka movie. Where basically you kind of go from like the normal kind of thing, and then you walk into, was it Wonkatania, I think is what they call it. And this is really where the tour actually begins. So we see this office. So it's just like, your tan walls, kind of, basic and boring. And this is where all kind of the fun and the magic actually begins. So what we're walking past is actually where all the engineering is. One of the things I should mention is we have over 20 industrial designers here in the building. We're actually more of an engineering company that happens to be building light fixtures. And the reason for that is the size, scale, and complexity of a lot of our lights is really quite significant. And those are products I've talked about in the past. We have light fixtures that we've built that are as large as, well, shoot, there's some that are the size of a football field, quite frankly, weigh as much as a Suburban hanging from the ceiling. And so just being able to build something like that without actually having some proper engineering to really support the ideas and designs behind that would be difficult, if not impossible. So this is, welcome to Hammerton. This is really where the bulk of our square footage is taken up, is in the manufacturing. And again, it's all in the same facility here in Salt Lake City. So I don't have my glasses, so I'm not going to go down the aisles, but I'm going to walk you over into fabrication, where a lot of our designs, well, actually all of the manufacturing really starts to take place. So what happens is, hopefully we get a deposit from a customer, and it comes into our engineering department. They take out a drawing, and it comes over here into fabrication. What you're looking at right now, and what Joel's showing you, is part of the Hammerton Studio collection. Actually, what's taking place right there is kind of interesting. We're doing some Kaizen lean activities. It helps us speed up production, helps keep costs low, improve quality. And that's one of the things that Jason is actually working on right now. And I mentioned this the other day. I want to talk a little bit about kind of a family affair that Hammerton is. The young man that you see helping Jason right there, his name is Sheridan. And what's really fun is the fact that Sheridan's dad, I worked the next aisle over. And I joked around in this on a tour on Wednesday that Sheridan didn't actually exist when Hammerton started 25 years ago, but his dad was part of that original infrastructure. So Joel, if you'll kind of continue on. This is the Hammerton signature aisle. And you'll notice that they're literally just a couple of feet apart. So signature is taking place down this aisle. A fabricator might be building a product and they'll fabricate that light, and they might not ever build it again. Let's kind of go down here. And one thing I'll mention, you'll see there aren't a few people here. We actually work in staggered shifts. So 6 or 7 of our fabricators work Monday through Thursday, and the other 6 or 7 actually work from Tuesday through Friday. So Friday's kind of an interesting day for us. This is always kind of a fun part in the tour. You'll see Joel kind of showing you this kind of hammer and anvil, or the tree stump of the anvil here. This is kind of the juxtaposition of Hammerton. So 25, 30 feet just down from this anvil is a $1 million laser machine that's cutting out precision parts. But there's still this old world manufacturing that still takes place here, where an artisan will be pounding, sculpting, doing whatever he needs to do to create some beautiful handcrafted light fixtures. At the same time, you actually look at the bench, and let's just come over here really quick, kind of look at Colin's bench for a second. What's really interesting is we actually have designed these benches to create, one, to help with assembly, but keep things ultra crisp and ultra flat. And what's really cool, Colin, can I just for 1 second, is it allows him to actually move this around and actually kind of square things up wherever he needs to. So if I don't screw that up too much, you can come back and check me. But this is really kind of fun. So we're always looking at new and creative ways to improve design and construction. And I'll walk you over here just very briefly. So I talk about all the different abilities that we have here at Hammerton. We work with steel and aluminum, which is where our design started off 25 years ago. But a lot of that requires, while we look at some of that old world stuff that we showed in the very beginning with the Craftsman, the Chateau, a lot of these things require precision parts as well. So we actually have our own machine shop with several CNC lathes and some manual mills, turning out beautiful precision parts that are required not only for Hammerton Signature, but especially for our Hammerton Studio product. And again, it's all taking place here in Salt Lake City. And that's one of the questions we get a lot of is like, okay, well, can you talk to your manufacturer about the quality of this thing? And people need to understand is that we, in fact, are the manufacturer, and it is happening right here. You can't go about 20 feet here at Hammerton without seeing an area like this, and that is basically it's a quality point. So Jeff Murdoch is one of our quality technicians. He's a recipient of everything that is built in fabrication. And what he does is he'll stop, he'll make sure it's plumb level and square, that it's exactly as the customer specified, that he can get the lens material in there, that it'll electrify, that can be painted, that there's no blemish in there. So about every 20 to 25 feet, as this product makes its way through the manufacturing process, it's stopped and rechecked. Did the paint get applied correctly? Did the electrical go in? Is it what was specified? Does it light up? Does the lens go in there? Is the lens free of defects? And so it's really wonderful having people like Jeff here who can actually help solve these problems and to make sure that we're delivering the most beautiful product that we possibly can. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about powder coat. We actually, as a company, I think understand the powder coating process and what's required to build beautiful, robust light fixtures that we can actually warranty. And we covered that over another presentation. I actually have toured really kind of all over the U.S. doing CEUs for designers, for specifiers, talking about kind of our ARMA rating, which basically is a way of kind of saying that our product is certified to go outdoors and it's going to last for the lifetime of the product. So a product goes through fabrication, it comes into paint. Again, it's checked multiple times. It gets powder coated. The great thing about powder coat is as soon as it's dry, it moves over into finish. And what you'll see, and we're not going to walk down here, but we have two different aisles. This is signature finish, or excuse me, studio finish, and the other aisle over here is signature finish. And what you don't see directly behind you, in fact, Joel, if you want to turn around for just 1 second and show them this, is that these are actually kits. So what happens to the manufacturing process is that all these parts and pieces all start to kind of coalesce and come together right here. And then the studio finish operator will come, they'll grab a kit, they'll grab their detail, they make sure they have all the glass and all the electrical, and they'll bring it back to the bench and they'll start doing the assembly. And the customers understand and appreciate, yes, there is some customization of studio. This would be an example of a custom studio product. So it's inspired by one of our studios, but the size and scale is dramatic. So yes, there is some customization of studio product. Oftentimes items like this size will end up in signature, but for right now, that one's in studio. And what's really interesting is Amber, who's sitting over here, she'll wire up this light, she'll have the paperwork, she'll be checking once again that it's plumb level and square, that it's the right lens material. She'll put the electrical in there, she'll light the whole thing up. This will then be taken over to Finish QC. It'll be re-inspected, lit up once again. They'll check for any other scratch, blemish, make sure everything is perfect before it leaves. And the one thing you won't see here at Hammerton, a lot of crates. One of our big challenges is that we've kind of outgrown our facility. So we actually warehouse a lot of our products ready to be shipped out in the warehouse next door. But here comes the next part. And then we're starting to get to kind of the fun here. So I want to say it's about 10 years ago, Hammerton acquired another company, another lighting company out of Oakland, California called Lightspan. And so for those who've been around for a while might be familiar with this, but this is really where Lightspan kind of begins, where it really kind of came from. And so this is, let's see if I can find something here. Usually I have some props out here to kind of help out. But let me explain a little bit about what we're looking at. This is the warm glass department. And it's really kind of a misnomer in that warm glass is something that's fired inside of a kiln. And warm basically means that we're manipulating the glass, whether it's the texture or the shape, between 1200 degrees to 1400 degrees Fahrenheit. And it all takes place inside of one of these furnaces. So here's really what happens. As one of our operators, our artisans, Travis as an example, will go and he'll take a piece of glass. And this is a piece of clear sheeted glass. And he'll have a sheet of this that might be, I don't know, 24 inches by 48 inches. This particular design called for a circle. But he might cut out a rectangle. And this is kind of where the whole thing starts. Let's say he cut out a rectangle or even kind of a different shape here. So this would start off as a flat sheet of glass. He would follow the detail, and then he would actually place this inside of one of the kilns that are located behind me, and he would heat this up to some temperature between 1220 to 1400 degrees, depending on what he wanted to do. So slumping is an example. It's usually done right around 1240 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's not just turn on the oven, turn off the oven. You have to be very, very disciplined on how quickly you heat the glass up and how quickly you cool it down. And literally 1 to 2 degrees and, a couple of seconds, too long or too little, can spell the difference between success and failure. And what's really fascinating about the fact that all of our designs all start with kind of metal fabrication is the fact that when someone has a particular radius or something that they want, we're able to kind of help solve that problem on the fly and very, very quickly. Joel, if you would for just a second, just turn right here. And this is what I'm talking about. So with a lot of lighting manufacturers who specialize in just glass, if they had a need for a custom jig to slump a piece of glass, they might have to work with an outside engineering company, have a drawing created. They have to work with another fabrication company to get that jig created. But with us, if we have an idea or something we want to do for a customer, we can engineer it on a Monday. We can fabricate that jig on a Tuesday. We can put it into a kiln on a Wednesday and have this thing ready to go out by a Thursday or Friday. So the speed at which we're able to do custom product or to bring about new designs is radically different than a lot of our competition out there. And as I was talking a bit about glass, and I tend to kind of go past this area because it's kind of static. You don't really see what's happening. You close the lid and it seems like this magic kind of happens. But as I was saying, he's actually loading something in right now, and this might be kind of fun to see. So what we have here, and we talked about kind of environmental responsibility as it goes along with this. This is actually Rime-Light glass, and this is the glass that goes in one of our Odeon chandeliers. It's part of our signature collection. And what Travis actually has done is he's taken the glass that he's been of his waste stream, essentially all his clear glass. He crushes it up. He then puts it onto a kind of an oval shaped, football shaped piece of flat glass. He'll heat this up to right around 1400 degrees. He'll tack fuse that glass on there. That glass will actually stick to it, adhere to it. And then when it comes back out, he'll cool it down. He'll then place it onto a jig and he'll slump it. So a piece of glass, thank you, Travis, I appreciate that, might go in and out of the kiln 3 or 4 times. And so what you end up with is a beautiful piece of glass that's kind of soft to the touch, has kind of these rounded corners. That glass originally goes in there very, very sharp, but it has this really, beautiful quality. And it actually is kind of reminiscent of jewelry with the way it kind of refracts light. Thank you, I appreciate that. And you look at just all the different textures and all the different things that we can create with kiln-fired glass. Well, let's get on to the hot shop, which I think what everyone came to see, and not hear me drone on and on. So this is the hot shop. I will do my best to be as loud as I can. It is noisy in there, but let's go from there. And that's Gracie who's dancing right now. And so here we go. Looks like right now we're doing Elise glass. So here's kind of the fun thing is we talk about, you see all of our blown glass that you see in our signature and our studio products. It is all being made here in our facility in Salt Lake City, Utah. And the technology and the methodology of blowing glass really hasn't changed in the millennia. The Egyptians started off by having fires along, on the beach. And the next morning when they would wake up after these campfires had burned down, because there was a presence of silica in the sand that was along the beach and the ash from the fire, they'd wake up and they'd find a thin layer of glass underneath their campfire the next morning. And this is really where the birth of glass started. I think it's 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. The technology for what goes into making glass hasn't really changed that much. The chemistry has changed a little bit, but the equipment, the tools, and the trade, really, we're talking about a craft that's been around for thousands of years. And the level of discipline it takes to actually blow glass, I think is worth talking about. So in this room, collectively, you probably have 45 to 50 years of glass blowing experience. You don't just wake up and decide you're going to want to blow glass. Quinn, who was just a recipient of that blowpipe right there that Gracie's now blowing into the end of, Quinn's he's the gaffer in this particular role. His job is to help kind of form that shape, form that glass, and ultimately deliver that final piece of glass into the annealer, which I'll talk about. But they work in a team, and that's one thing which I think is worth mentioning. As I've done this tour in the past, I've always kind of talked about people like Dale Chihuly. And I think it's worth mentioning what Dale Chihuly did for the glass world. 50 or 60 years ago, glass artisans, they really kind of worked in a pair of a master glass blower and apprentice. And so the size and scale of a piece of glass was really kind of limited to what 2 people could actually accomplish. What artists like Dale Chihuly talked about and what they really help enforce is if we work as a team, the size, the scale, the beauty, and the quantity of glass can be dramatically increased if we work in a larger group. So what you'll see are 5 or 6 people that are all working together to create 1 or 2 pieces of glass. So as an example, Sarah, who you see over there, who's in front of the furnace, I'll talk about that equipment in a second. She's starting to do a gather. And what that'll eventually do is that she'll take that back to her bench, she'll shape this and form it, she'll hand it over to Gracie, who might reheat the glass, and then this will eventually end back over with Quinn, who might blow the piece of glass. And so by the time he's done with the piece of glass, Gracie will hand him another one, and Sarah will put another piece of glass into Gracie's hands. And this is the process. So what you see, that's into a mold right now, and you'll see that he's spinning that, and you'll see steam coming off of that mold. And that's exactly what it is. It's steam. It's not smoke. That mold itself is actually made out of cherry wood, and that wood has never been allowed to dry. It was cut down and then milled or machined to a particular shape, and then that mold was actually placed in the water, and so that wood stays wet from the moment it was cut down until that mold can no longer be used. And the reason why they keep them wet is it keeps that mold from burning out. When they put that glass in there, it's going in at a temperature of right around 1800 to 2000 degrees Fahrenheit. You think about what that would do to a piece of wood, it would burn it out. By keeping that thing soaked in water, it's actually a thin layer of steam that helps shape that glass. And what Quinn's making right there is actually a piece of Terra. Now, I think this is a lot of fun. When you look at glass, and the next time you're in a restaurant or you look at a piece of glass or a vase on the shelf, I want you to appreciate the step that's taking place right here. What Grace is actually doing is she's attaching another pipe onto the end of this piece of glass, and that's called a punty. And what the piece of glass that's still in Quinn's hands is like the moil or the neck of the glass. And the reason why he's transferring this glass from one pipe to the other is that he needs to open up that glass. All blown glass starts off essentially as a bubble. It's closed on one end. And so what this does, by transferring that onto another pipe, and what that is, it's actually a rod, Gracie will not be able to blow air to the end of that pipe. There's no mouthpiece on there. There's no air that will pass through there. And this is probably the most stressful part during the whole glass blowing process. What Quinn is trying to do is make sure the temperature of the punty and the temperature of the glass are the same, that there's no thermal shock. And so oftentimes what will happen is you'll be blowing a piece of glass for 20 or 30 minutes, and then you'll actually go to transfer into that punty, and only to realize that it wasn't the right temperature, and that punty will break off. So right there was probably the most stressful part in the whole glass blowing process. So he's broken this piece off. Gracie's now gonna go take this, and she's gonna reheat this into what's called the glory hole. And we can all kind of snicker and laugh at that name. I've joked around a couple of weeks ago that that's not what Disney World calls it. I was there with my kids a couple of years ago, and they have a glass blowing studio during the main street. I heard the glass artist in there would call it a reheating furnace, and I called her out on it. And her answer was, yeah, we don't call it the real name here at Disney World. But what that does is they're constantly battling the temperature of the glass, being too hot or too cold. And there's a specific temperature they're trying to keep it in. And so what that glory hole does, it allows them to heat that glass up as it cools down. So if you would, just for 1 second, can you pan over to what Sarah's doing right here? I want to talk about that piece of equipment. So that right there, what Sarah's standing in front of is the furnace. And what she's doing, she's going inside that furnace, and this is where she's actually gathering glass. And inside of that furnace, there's essentially a large bowl. It's actually a tray in this particular case. And there, when that furnace is full, it has 1,500 pounds of molten glass in it. That's 1,500 pounds of glass. And we have two other furnaces here in our facility, two 500-pound furnaces. And any 1 week here at Hammerton, we'll go through 3,000 or 4,000 pounds of glass. Now, what Sarah just did is she just did a gather. She had a little bit of glass on a pipe. She went into the furnace, and she gathered glass. Every time Sarah goes into that furnace, if she has 1 pound of glass into that pipe, that 1 pound will become 2 pounds. The 2 will become 4. 4 will become 8, and so on. I recently saw a piece of glass actually blown out of the studio. At the end of that pipe, it was 20 pounds of glass. I want you to appreciate how heavy 20 pounds of glass would actually be sitting on the end of a 5-foot pipe where you can't hold this thing right up to the neck. And so just the strength, the flexibility, the endurance that a glass blower has to have is just incredible. What Sarah's actually getting ready to do is she's actually getting ready to make an optic wrap. I'm gonna stop for just 1 second and just kind of let you guys appreciate what's happening over here. So Sarah's gonna be adding an element to the glass. You'll see the optic band, and this is what it is. Actually, it's another layer of glass that's added to the glass kind of during kind of mid-blowing process. And so she kind of see that she formed that into a tip. It allows her to kind of bond it onto the glass, and then we'll wrap it around. I think we'll stick around long enough to actually watch this happen. And I think this is actually part of our release class for the studio collection. One thing I'll mention during this is all the glass in the furnaces is clear. And I'll explain in a minute how we actually add color to that. And so that's the optic. Andrew, who is the gaffer on this piece, he and his fiance, I should say, work here or going to work here. They have 25 years each of glass blowing experience. So I talk about the amount of time, energy, and talent that is in this room right now. It's just phenomenal. It takes years to perfect your craft. You don't just wake up and become a glass blower. You've been doing it for about 5 or 6 years. It's only at that point do you realize how much you don't actually know. And so what Andrew is doing is he's putting that piece of glass onto a marble. And it actually comes from the Italian word, something for marble, and it starts with the marb. I won't pretend to even speak Italian, but that's what it used to be. The Italians, they would actually use a marble table to actually help shape the glass. And so the name is stuck around and it's called marber. And he's actually taking that piece of glass, putting it back in the reheating furnace. Ryan over there is blowing out the excess moisture out of the mold. So Ryan will heat that glass up here in a second. It's going to go back into that mold. And that optic band will get melted into that mold a little bit, and that glass will begin to actually start to take its final shape. Again, this will be puntied up. It'll be transferred from one pipe to another, and it'll be opened up. So anytime you have a piece of glass that's open on one end, think of the extra step that is involved in that process. So Gracie's gaffing, Ryan's blowing on the end of this thing. She's coming up with the final shape, and then this will go into the mold here in a minute. I don't know what you guys can or can't see as Joel's panning around, but one of the things that's interesting about glass, when you're blowing glass, if you just let the glass cool at room temperature, it would break within a matter of minutes. Glass needs to be cooled down at a very specific rate. And so we have what are called annealing ovens. So the glass team will work all day to blow 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 pieces of glass. They'll be loading up an annealing oven all day long, all afternoon. As they're walking out, they'll actually run a firing schedule. And what we'll do is we'll hold that glass at a constant temperature, right around 960 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we'll cool that down over a very specific rate at a very specific time. So when you blow a piece of glass, again, if you let it cool at room temperature, it'll break. What you have to do is bring that glass down to a specific temperature over a period of 12 to 14 hours on a piece of blown glass. For those of you who are probably well aware, Hammerton does a lot of glass casting, and which we're not doing in the hot shop today, but the discipline, the time it takes to do glass casting is phenomenal. We'll do glass casting. We'll actually make the piece very quickly. We'll have to load it into an annealer, and it'll actually sit in that annealer for 5 to 6 days before it can actually be allowed to be brought out. If we allow that glass to actually cool down at room temperature, it would break. Or we bring it down too quickly, it'll break. The really challenging and the frustrating thing about that is on day 2 or day 3 of that firing process, or that annealing process, that glass could have already broken, but you're not going to know that for a couple of days. I don't know if you guys just saw that. I just want to appreciate the shorthand. You saw Ashley kind of tapping her foot right there. So rather kind of yelling out to each other, there's a shorthand that glass blowers really have. Kind of let them know, hey, this glass is ready to come out. What Ashley's really feeling for, she's feeling for the elasticity of the glass, how it feels inside the mold, is that glass stretching out. And she's basically letting Ryan know this thing's ready to come out of the mold. Anyway, that's about it. That's all we're going to cover for right now. So Joel, I want to thank everyone for being here today and being a part of this. We're going to be doing more of these tours. We'll be talking about glass. We'll be talking about our fabrication ability. We've been talking about powder coating. We did an Instagram Live feed of the day. So we invite you guys to come back to be a part of those Instagram Lives to learn more about Hammerton. We're really excited about the things that we've been doing. Again, we've been doing this for 25 years. We're super proud of what we've accomplished in that 25-year period. But again, thank you for joining us. And if there's no other questions, I'll stop droning on and on. I'll let you guys get back to your days.
Thank you, everybody. I just wanted to ask if there's any further questions that you may have. Thanks, and have a great weekend.